Deion Sanders has been on the receiving end of some shade from some notable former players, but none as notable as Jordan Seaton. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the business. Today, myself and Jay Smith will be talking about our biggest questions heading into Colorado spring game because it's literally here. It's this weekend, and it's exciting, but there's going to be some questions. We're going to talk about the quarterback battle. Is that a thing? Is Coach Prime just trying to use this as a motivation tactic? We'll dive into the semantics of it all. But first, I wanted to talk about the Jordan Seaton sort of former player shade at Colorado. Jay, first of all, lovely to have you. You've been a well-traveled man as of late. He's been all over the world, it feels like. Hard to track down. But Coach Prime and Colorado have sort of been on this receiving end of, I don't know if it's shade, backhanded comments, or just guys who lack PR training. I'm not sure. But Jordan Seaton, when was talking about why he left Colorado, said, quote, "When I left Colorado, I felt like it was a good point, or I felt like I was at a good point. But coming here being LSU, the transition, how I eat to how we work is just kind of different. My decision to come here was based off of it just means more. Being here is really just different from how we train to how we work. We're big on extra around here. Just doing what's required is not enough." And so Deion Sanders addressed this yesterday or the day before, and was just sort of like, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about former players. Like, I think some guys got help, other guys, whatever. What is your take on the matter, Jay?
I like the way that Prime approached it with some having a victim mentality and really pointing out that a lot of them did get their voice when they came to Colorado. And so there's no reason to go back and forth on it. You know, he's happy that they found nice places and they found peace, and that's it. Kevin, that's basically the best way to handle it. Like, people are going to yap. Some people are going to praise how things were because they had a great experience. Some didn't have a great experience, and that's honestly at any school. I've heard this from players at other schools before of, at that school, they weren't really all locked in. Here, it's more locked in. Heck, I remember running back Jaden Ott when he got to Oklahoma. He was talking about Cal in the comparison. He's like, they care here. And, I mean, Fernando Mendoza was his quarterback, so you're trying to say Fernando Mendoza didn't care? You're trying to say that he wasn't all locked in? But everybody's going to make a statement, and that's just the game. So the fact that Prime decided to take a stand of, no reason for us to go back and forth, just, happy for them and good luck, and I hope that, they see success. That's all that matters. So I think, like you said, I think he handled it in the best way he possibly could.
Yeah, and ironically, Jay, there was like questions about how much he cares this past season, if I remember correctly. So you got to be careful with what you say. The thing that stands out to me is I feel like because it's Colorado, it's a bigger deal. That's not a hot take, not a spicy take by any means. Like if Deion Sanders, like I made this comparison yesterday. If Boo Carter went on the show and was like, I left Tennessee because they weren't coaching me right, like I think college football would be up in flames, right? It's like Colorado player bashes historic SEC program, and it's a whole thing. And so I think it was a week or so ago now, Coach Prime was like, we don't talk about our other programs because it's like talking about your ex-girlfriend, right? Yeah. When you break up with someone, like, sure, you had the memories or whatever, but there's going to be nothing really that could be said that's going to do anybody any like positives, right? Like, you're not going to provide any profound statement on an ex, and you're not going to provide any profound statement on your program because otherwise you probably would have stayed there. So I think the hard part about Jordan Seaton, I think the thing that a lot of Colorado fans are taking to heart is it felt like Shador, Bucky, Coach Prime, it felt like they sort of like went out of their way to like make him feel at home and like make him feel like he was what he was. And so I think that part maybe has to sting a little bit. And I don't think we'll ever get an admission on that part, but do you think there's like a little personal aspect of like, really? That's how you're doing us?
It could be. It could be. I mean, for him, he got a very nice bag to go to LSU, and LSU is a pretty premier program as well, right? Now he's going to be underneath one of the biggest names as far as coaches and one of the biggest drama-filled people in college football, in Lane Kiffin. I mean, we've seen his history. the USC situation, the Oakland Raiders situation, the Tennessee situation, now the Ole Miss. You see the trend, the Alabama situation. It seems to be a trend here, and that's not even me throwing shade at Lane. It's just we all know that there's always something. Baggage follows, and Jordan may be starting to accept that, or be in that realm. But I mean, he's a fine athlete. We know he's really good, and he's going to be very good for them. So there's really, I mean, like I said, a lot of players are going to just say stuff. They got to say good things about their new place.
Right.
I mean, they could say pseudo backhand compliments, but you went there for a reason, so you may as well hype them up to make it seem like that's the real, that was the big reason why you went there. And so I think he's just more so playing the game, and that's all that matters. The good thing is he didn't name anything specific and really take like true shots. He threw maybe some backhand shade there, but that's much better than if he would have came and really started attacking the program and say they don't do anything, they suck, the whole culture is terrible, whatever. If he started doing things like that, then I would totally understand people have an issue. But he played the PR game right. He was pretty just, very mellow about it. And yeah, LSU, there's some lunatics down there. It's just is what it is.
Yeah, and I talked about this yesterday too. I think what's the difference between this program and your former program is a very disingenuous leading question by media members. Yes, and like, really I'll stand on that all day, because it's like, if I was like, hey, Jay, talk to me about why you left your former job and tell me why this job is so much better. Are you going to be like, actually, I loved everything about my former job. I just felt the need to leave. Like, no, it's going to be like, this job offered me this, this, and this. Like, it is what it is. Right. So it's a very leading question. You know what you're doing when you ask that. So I feel like, in grad school, I'll give you guys like a little tip into my upbringing in sports media. I had a professor who worked at ESPN, and he was like, if you're going to ask a question with the hope of getting a certain answer, that's not a good question, right? He's like, you're doing it at the time, 4 clicks wasn't even a thing. This was back in 2020 COVID year. So like social media was still very prevalent, but it wasn't like everything was for social media. That is very much like I'm looking for a certain answer, and you're kind of backing an athlete into a corner with that. So don't love that. That being said, if I were to defend Jordan Seaton, I do think Colorado had some problems with effort level, just coaching dynamics last year, right? There's a reason that Coach Prime brought in pretty much an entire brand new staff. There's a reason that they brought in pretty much brand new, I guess, style of player, where it's guys who are looking to prove themselves. Like, they weren't putting in the work last year, right? Chidozie Nwankwo said as much. He said, you guys are lazy. Coach Prime called his team quitters. And that was after they beat a top 25 team. Like, that team last year had problems. So maybe there is some of that there. So listen, I think players are going to answer these questions however they can, but don't love the question. Jay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the quarterback battle. Is it really as tense as they want us to think? I don't know. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Guess what, everybody? The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. Here's what I like about it. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. And during the playoffs, the extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Over here at Locked On, we're doing this really cool thing called the Everydayer Club. Myself, I'm there. You can hit me up and ask me questions. Jay hops in every once in a while to the Buffs Discord and answers some questions and talks with us as well. And if I have a special guest on like Brendan Marion, I let you guys know. So if you have a specific question you want me to ask, I will ask that. And if you're trying to listen to the show in a hurry and you're on your walking the dog, or maybe you're cooking dinner, you get the show ad-free. So make sure to go to lockedonbuffs.supercast.com to sign up. Join our Everydayer Club. Say what's up. Jay, the quarterback battle. I feel like Colorado's in this weird position because it's not weird, I guess. I don't know. We'll just pick it apart. Julian Lewis has been like the guy in everyone's eyes. That being said, I don't think you could ignore how much of a statement Isaac Wilson has made, right? I think I was relatively low on his addition, to be honest, this past offseason, because I saw what I saw at Utah. But when you think about it, he was thrown into the fire really early as a freshman because Cam Rising was in his 12th year of college, got hurt again, and they thrust Isaac Wilson to the starting role. And then they bring in Devin Dampier, so he's sort of the backup there. But Brendan Marion told me, he's like, Isaac Wilson has like refound himself. He's like rediscovered himself. And then you watch these videos, and I think it was Preston Ashley at one point was like, he's that guy. And so I feel like there's a lot of buildup around this quarterback situation. Do you think there's a legitimate quarterback battle, or is this just fuel under the Julian Lewis, like trying to light a fire under, you know what?
I think they're trying to light a fire underneath him, just to keep pushing him or whatnot. I think that this is his job to lose. I think he's already said as QB1. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be QB1. Now, granted, Isaac Wilson is not bad. He is the only person that threw a touchdown on Travis Hunter that season while he was at Utah. So we know the kid's got the talent. We know he knows how to play. But the biggest question has been, like, would they take out Julian Lewis to play Isaac Wilson like that, or even the freshman? I don't see it. But the way that Brendan Marion has praised Julian, I don't think that this job is one that he's going to lose. He's been cooking in camp. You watch the videos on Well Off Media. They give you all the behind the scenes stuff. You get to see some of the cool plays, and he's in there. He's in there fighting with folks. He's battling. He's showing leadership. He's grown a lot based upon what everybody has been saying. So to me, I don't think that this is truly a quote unquote battle. But I do think that they're pushing everybody to say, hey, I need to get better.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up the fight. I think that's sort of a sign of growth and leadership, honestly. And obviously you don't want your quarterbacks throwing hands with linebackers or defensive linemen ever. But there was, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, Tyler Martinez, which is the New Mexico State linebacker transfer. He was throwing, I guess, a punch. I don't know. Some of these punches in football are interesting to me because it's like you're punching someone with a helmet on. I won't dive into the optics there, but he's punching an offensive lineman in the helmet, if you will, and the offensive lineman wasn't facing him, and so Julian Lewis essentially tackles him to the ground and is like fighting him on the ground, and then he gets pulled off, and he's like, "I love this," or "I live for this," or something. And to me, my eyes, like my life flashed before my eyes, because it's like, imagine Julian Lewis like gets rolled up on or like breaks a hand somehow throwing a punch or whatever. But the effort level, the sort of being there for your teammates, being the ride or die for your teammates, that's what I like. Because I didn't want to make too much of this, but Julian Lewis not being drafted first overall in the spring draft for Colorado, that said something to me. I don't know what it said, but I was like, it's not nothing. I still don't know what it means, because we're going to find out this weekend if that really helped the team who picked first. But I really thought it was like some sort of a message. And I think Julian Lewis is having to win over a locker room. And whether or not people realize this, Colorado brought in 59 new players. So Julian Lewis can't just ride with I'm a 5-star, I was here last year, because none of these guys know him. Like, they may know of him, but they don't know him. So he has to like win over this entire locker room. So I think it's things like that can help him do so. My stance on the quarterback battle, and Jay, I'll get your thoughts on this before we move on. It's absolutely Julian's job until he proves that he's not able to handle it. Right. Because I don't think Colorado brings him in over USC and Auburn and just sort of is like, you know what, we don't believe in you. Like, I think they wanted to play him a lot more last year, and I don't think they figured out how. And I think it's his job. Now, it doesn't hurt to have Isaac Wilson ready. And that's what Brendan Marion told me. He's like, why would I not work with every quarterback? Because if you need someone to step up, then if they're not ready, then what's the difference? So I think it's truly his job. And you kind of touched on this earlier. So closing thoughts, if you will.
Yeah, because, I mean, football's a dangerous sport. Yeah. And that is literally what other teams are gunning for, is taking your quarterback out. You take a team's quarterback out, typically that means you take the team out. That is, and not in a malicious way. It's more of a, we need to get your quarterback. That is the job of the defensive line. That is the job of the linebackers, especially if they blitz. That's the job of the secondary if they blitz, is to go get the quarterback. If the quarterback starts running, that is the job of everybody around, is to hit that man, get that man on the ground. That's just the game, and it's a dangerous game. So yeah, you're gonna have situations where he may get his bell rung, and he's yanked. He's gonna have to, he get his helmet knocked off. Guess what? He got to sit a play, and if you want to keep the rhythm going, you got to at least have a quarterback that's viable to make teams believe that, oh, okay, they may throw the ball instead of just running it, because if they know that you're gonna just hand the ball off, they can stack the box and really put you in a bad situation. So yeah, you want to work with everybody, and Brendan Marion is very, very spot on with that statement. That's just, that's how it works. And so With that being said, I'm still on the Julian Lewis train. I think that this is his job to lose, and based upon just watching him throw in a lot of the videos, feels like he's starting to get all of the chemistry down, and he'll be QB1 first game of the season against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Brendan Marion, before we move on, he said that it's a very hard offense for quarterbacks to learn. So Julian Lewis is, first of all, he was a senior in high school last year, at least age-wise, had to learn an offense, had to sort of balance the dynamic of not being the guy when he maybe thought he was going to be the guy. Then he comes into a second season in college football, has 60 new teammates, and one of the hardest offenses in college football to learn. So forgive the guy if it doesn't just happen overnight. So we'll see Julian Lewis, I think, to some degree, show out a little bit this spring during the spring game on Saturday. But what is your biggest question about that? We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to talk about that when we come back.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. UCLA made history by winning its first NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship, dominating South Carolina 79-51. The Bruins controlled the game from start to finish with elite defense and balanced scoring, finishing the season 37-1. Star center Lauren Betts was named Most Outstanding Player, leading a team effort that capped a 31-game winning streak. Under head coach Corey Close, UCLA secured a landmark title that has been decades in the making. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, I'm coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. It's me. It's Jay Smith. Jay, spring game is upon us, and I think I'm excited that Colorado spring game isn't like the very last one this year because it always felt like it took forever to get here. But I'm excited because I think questions will be answered. What is your biggest question that you're hoping, even if it's not like fully answered, because I don't think we're going to just walk away from Saturday's game and be like, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah.
But I think
everything.
Yeah, I see it all. Lethal shooter, I understand it now. But what is something that you're hoping is at least addressed or puts you at ease?
I'm honestly really curious to see what the final defensive line alignment is. You've got multiple options, as you mentioned, 59 players coming in, and basically majority of your defense is all transfers. So Coach Marv's got a lot of players to work with. Prime talked about the 3 linebackers that came in, and it feels like those guys are most likely settled in their spots. Curious to how the D-line is going to look, what the rotation is going to be. I know Santana Hopper is definitely right there in the middle of it, but I'm curious to how that's going to work and what adjustments there. That's probably my biggest one, because the Buffs struggled so bad in stopping the run last year. Like, it was awful. Year before, much better. And they got a ton of sacks to go with it. So wondering if they can get back to that 24 energy here in 2026.
Yeah, I'm excited about the defensive line as well, just because they lost everyone. And it's one of those things where it's like, it sucks to lose everyone, but like they were really bad last year. So it's a really gray area, if you will, but you need guys who could stop the run. 222.5 yards per game rushing won't get it done. That was one of the worst in college football. And so if you're just average against the run, like, your team can be consistent. Like, that is just sort of where I was at with the defense last year. And it's been where I've been at with the offensive line. That's my biggest question, or one of them, is what does the offensive line look like? Because whether people want to pretend like they were reading the tea leaves or not, and like in hindsight, I think hindsight's 2020 per usual, but I think a lot of people were expecting Jordan Seaton to be back, right? So I think we were expecting like Jordan Seaton, Yaya Atia, maybe Larry Johnson. So 2 new offensive linemen. I think we're getting probably 4 to 5 new starters, right? And I think Yaya Atia is the only guy that I would really pencil in as a starter. I think Larry Johnson, I don't think if they were that confident in him, I don't think they bring in like 5 tackles. So and
that's true.
And I don't think you flirt with a move to guard for him. So that makes it complicated, but I'd like to see what this line looks like, because the go-go offense is predicated on not having the best offensive line, but it certainly wouldn't hurt if you had a really good one. And Colorado has yet to have one. And in Deion's 3 years, they've yet to have a 100-yard rusher in a game, and that's going to change with the go-go. They've yet to have a 400-yard rusher on a season, and they're consistently one of the most sacked teams in college football. And so I think they sort of didn't realize how much Shador saved them, which is hard to fathom. But Shador Sanders erased a lot of problems. And we saw last year how troublesome it could be for a quarterback who's not comfortable in a pocket that is consistently collapsing. So I want to see who's at least starting or standing out. And I want to see where, because I do think there's a few battles where I'm like, oh, it'll be interesting. What's your
That's
next?
exactly it.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like the trenches is going to tell us everything about what this team's going to be able to do. And like you mentioned, with the way the go-go is set up, it's it's built to be able to be productive even if you don't have the best talent. That's probably the best way to say it. Right now, you don't have the top tier talent, but you're still going to be productive and put up numbers. They've done that, so we expect that. Next up, though, secondary. I'm truly curious to see where does Boo Carter play. He's moving around corner, nickel. He's playing some safety. They got him shifting in so many positions. I'm really intrigued to see where that goes. I know Creed Thomas is definitely DB1. He that dude. I think what England is looking at probably playing at that second spot if it doesn't end up being Boo Carter at corner. But I know that he's playing multiple positions. So it's going to be interesting to see where they throw him around and how that secondary also shapes out. The whole defense, I'm really, for the most part, I mean, like I said, the linebackers, I think they've got that completely set. Offense, I have no concerns. There's too much talent there, and with that go-go offense for me to even be concerned about it. I'll see what it looks like against Georgia Tech. But for the most part, I'm ready to see what does this defense turn into since they had that massive refresh compared to last year. I really would hope they can get back to that 2024 setup, which was a very solid defense.
Yeah, I think the defense in 2024 may have won them a couple games. I mean, for instance, I remember off the top of my head, the Baylor game, right? Forced fumble ends the game. Like that's a big deal. Like as simple as that. And so, yeah, I think the defense as a whole is exciting. The secondary, I was interested about the Boo Carter move, and maybe we could hash this out. Do you think that's a move? And I know Coach Prime said it was more so centered on maximizing Boo Carter's value. Is that a necessity where he doesn't think someone else is stepping up, or is that just like this guy's so versatile that we want to use him in different ways?
I don't know if it's no one else is stepping up as much as it is Boo is extremely talented.
Yeah.
Right. Like you still got players like you still got Makari Vickers, who, has been there the last, couple years. You still got Ben, you still got RJ Johnson. You still got a lot of players that that have been there before and that could also play. Maybe, the new guys have come in and made some magic happen. Fontenette is one that I've talked about here on the show. I'm pretty excited about seeing out there at safety. He was a leader at Vanderbilt, and he was one that I like, oh, he's going to be fun to watch. But I think it's more so because Boo is so versatile and he can play in a lot of places. I mean, he was like that at Tennessee as well. That feels like more of the focal point here is allowing him to just be an athlete. And the more of an athlete he is, the better he's going to be able to perform.
Yeah, I guess that's a great point because my worry is every time I hear multiple positions is the master of none, jack of all trades kind of vibe where it's like he's really good at a lot of things, but is he special at one thing? And I think Boo Carter can be special at multiple things, but I just hope Colorado figures that out. Like, hey, we like you at nickel. But yeah, because if we're experimenting into the season, that's where I'm going to be like, okay, just pick a spot, right? Because you're kind of messing up everything else. The other thing that I think is a big question, and I kind of hit on this earlier, talking about the offensive line, is the running backs. I mean, outside of Dylan Edwards, which was year one, and he was kind of banged up, and so we didn't even get to see, like, I think the best of Dylan Edwards. Colorado hasn't had a running back where it's just like, hand that guy the ball, let him work. Well, the go-go offense, they're going to be running the ball down your throats. And so they have Richard Young from Bama, who we're both excited about. They have Damian Henderson from Sac State, who was one of the better players for the Hornets last year. And they have Michael Welch, who's coming back. They have Trackhawk. They have a lot of names, but I'm curious to see who sort of stands out, because I think the go-go, if you were to ask me to draw like the starting 11 for the go-go offense, it's going to be two running backs on the field, I would assume, like out of most looks that you're going to get. So who are going to be the 1A and 1B, and how much does that change this offense, and how much does that help the quarterback?
Yeah, I am very intrigued to see if Richard Young ends up taking that starting spot at running back, or if Michael Welch or Trackhawk or somebody else ends up taking. I am very intrigued by that one too, because no one has really given us a full indication of who is taking all the snaps. You're seeing everybody kind of move around in there. So yeah, that's a very good question. And that's one that of course, the answer won't be here at spring ball. I don't think you'll know until fall camp. I think that's when you'll probably get a better understanding of what all this looks like, because there are so many new people and so many people excited about the opportunity to play. That to me makes it a little bit of a challenge to really establish who your hardest workers are, who the players are that really want to do stuff, but it's really tough to have that final person of or whatnot when it's like when you got so much, you should say, movement or whatnot, so many people around there. Now you got certain players that walk in and basically mark their territory and say, hey, this is mine and I ain't going nowhere. Yeah, you're gonna have those, but in a lot of situations when it comes to bringing in transfers, and the same thing with recruits, when you get them in there and it's their first time there with everybody else who's also their first time, cream's got to rise to the top. And sometimes it takes a bit because everybody's pushing for the opportunity to start because they know that those starting jobs are open, and some will separate themselves or some are muddled up in the middle together. And so now you got to figure out who that is. And so to me, I think fall, we're going to get a better taste of an idea of who's really going to stick out in majority of the positions, but you're going to have some outliers where it's going to be like, oh, nah, that's his job. Ain't nothing you can do about that. And running back is one I think you won't know until fall.
Yeah, it's weird because we're going to put so much on the spring game, but it's like we actually have like multiple months until we actually get our answers. But I will say one final thought before we go. This will be the first spring game where I think we'll actually have tangible things to take away, because year one, Deion Sanders essentially told everyone to leave. So there was a lot of guys who played in that spring game. Like Montana Lamonius Craig was the best player in that spring game, and he transferred to Arizona. And there was just a lot of guys where it's like, that guy's not on the team anymore. That guy won't be on the team. That guy's in the portal. And then the second year, I don't think we learned all that much because, one, it was like LeJontay Wester was like the star of the spring game. It was like, well, if you're watching the Well-Off Media videos, you already knew that Shore liked him. So we didn't learn anything there. And I liked Isaiah Harge at running back because they had a running back shortage. And then we never saw him at running back. And I was like, okay, that meant nothing. So, and then this past season, it was just kind of like they targeted Zach Atkins a lot. And then I think Zach Atkins had like 5 catches all year. I don't know if that's the actual number. I think it was like 10 to 15, but they didn't use him as much as I thought they should have, right? So it was one of those things where it's like, this could be the most educational spring game we have. So I'm excited. I know Jay's excited. Jay, you're also a busy guy. Tell the people where they can find you because you're working.
I'm all over the place, man. Find me at the Primetime College Football here on YouTube. I also talk OU ball at Locked On Sooners. So yeah, come find me and come hang out and chat.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Come hang out with us over here. Yeah, appreciate you. We're over here at Locked On Buffs. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Everyone have a great day.